Alright guys, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about the Ardent Knives Kestrel. Now, a couple months ago I went to the Pasadena Blade Expo in Pasadena, and I was looking around. I talked with a couple knife makers there and manufacturers, and it's high carbon steel, stainless steels. We've got 1095, 1075, that kind of thing, CPM 3, the normal steels. And when I went over to talk with Tim of Ardent Knives, I talked with him, and he says, I asked him what type of steel he's working with, just out of just to make small chat, and he says he's doing a CTS-XHP steel, and this is a steel I'm not very familiar with. And he was kind of mentioning to me that it's a stainless steel, but it has the same, very similar qualities to like a high carbon steel, but doesn't have the rusting characteristics. So that kind of really got my attention. I'm like, whoa, this is something I got to try and something I got to see for myself to see if I believe it, because 99% of my knives are high carbon. I've had stainless steel knives in the past, and from the way I kind of really use and abuse them, I found that I was having to sharpen them more often than non-stainless counterparts. But the flip side to that is don't have the rust protection. So if you go out in a storm or snowy environment, that type of thing, rust can play a big factor, or even next to the coast. Okay, so he got my attention. So I ended up picking up one of these Kestrels, and it's not a big knife. We're talking 4.5-inch blade length. It's about 9.5 inches in overall length. And just to give you a comparison, this is a Mora Bushcraft. So the Mora Bushcraft is almost as long, but it has a different blade profile to it. So, just a quick side comparison. And then there's a Top's brother of Bushcraft. And you can see a little bit bigger. Both these knives are high carbon. So what I ended up doing is I ended up grabbing one of these Kestrels up, and I instantly fell in love with it. When I picked it up for the first time, it just felt so good. Tim really took his time to try and find the ergonomic sweet spots, and just to try and figure out what his customers need. And I found that this is not only a great survival knife, but I think this knife would be a great knife for any soldier going into a combat zone that just wants a really quality knife that can be a jack of all trades. It's 4.5 inches, so you're not going to be doing a lot of hacking with it. You're not going to be doing a lot of chopping, but it can do it. Through different techniques. I actually even brought down a giant limb on a tree with this thing, using a beaver technique, and kind of just taking chunks around the circumference of a large branch, and I was able to take it down. So that was pretty easy, and pretty amazing thing that this little knife could do. So with that being said, I'm actually super giddy, and I don't really get giddy about knives, and this thing is awesome. I split firewood with it. I actually processed some logs and processed a deadfall and made firewood out of it. And then one of the other things I've done is I've used it just to shave the bark off of trees, delimbing off of branches, smaller branches, that type of deal. And this thing, I really put it through its paces. And I found that this knife really held up to the challenge. And this is a custom knife, so it's not going to be the most inexpensive knife on the planet, but who cares? This thing is a freaking superstar. I mean, I batoned with it. I took down a part of a limb. using the beaver chewing technique, and I was able to split firewood with it. I did so much. I threw so much at this knife in the course of about a month that I forgot to sharpen it. And normally I'd have to touch up a blade every couple weeks after you really use it hard. And this thing, I mean, there's no need. The edge retention on this blade is mythical. I mean, it's like Tim over at Ardent Knives, when he created this, like, I think he possessed it with some kind of black voodoo magic or something, because this thing is crazy sharp, and the edge retention is just amazing on this thing. One of the things that he actually does that I don't know of a lot of knife makers actually doing is he does a cryo treat on the blade, meaning that he uses, I think it's liquid nitrogen, and he actually goes in and freezes the blade to get the grain of the steel smaller. And then also, he does a traditional heat treat on the blade, and he does this all himself. So I think little extra steps that custom knife makers can do will really change the game on blades. And this knife in particular, there's a whole night and day difference in terms of the edge retention on this blade than something like even my brother's a Bushcraft, or even my Mora Bushcraft. Like, it's crazy. This thing is a really good knife. And he does extremely limited runs of these right now, and if you can get your hands on one, I really, really suggest you do, because this thing is awesome. I'm going to throw in some videos at the end of some usage of the knife, but I've really been looking for that perfect day hike knife / deployment knife, and I really think that this is it. Obviously it's not going to be my number one choice when I go out into the field, just and have just one knife. It's not a one knife solution in the way that it'll be excellent at everything, but I wouldn't feel undergunned going out with this and nothing else. I could definitely survive in a survival situation just with this knife. Now, I wouldn't do everything perfectly, and I don't think there's one knife that does everything perfectly, but I would definitely, if I had to choose one knife out of my whole entire collection as of right now, I think it would probably be this Kestrel. And that's no BS. It's been a long time since I've actually really gotten excited about a knife, and this is one of those times. And I think this is a great knife. Everyone should go out and go to ardentknives.com and check him out. He's got some other knives. They start at, I think he's got the strike knife that starts off at about $85, $95, something around there. And these are all custom knives. Pretty much he throws a batch online on his site at ardentknives.com, and then you can pick it up in first come, first serve. So these are not super high production knives at this time. So you're going to want to really get in there, and you're going to want to snag it up. He's got a Facebook page too. It's Ardent Knives, and he usually does announcements when he's going to throw knives up. And just grab them while you can. I did, and I'm really happy I did. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and please subscribe. Alright guys, we're going to do a comparison between the Ardent and my scrapyard. This is a scrapyard. This is the Ardent. Just get a good comparison. We're going to see which one has more chopping ability. Batoning, I should say. That was 4 hits. That was 5 hits. The Ardent, I had to use one more swing to cut that log compared to this. That's insane. That just gives you an idea of how much heft this knife has. This knife weighs over a pound versus the Ardent. One extra swing for almost half the weight. Not bad at all. Alright guys, here is a test that I did. I wanted to test the stainless capabilities of the Ardent knife, the Kestrel, and I left it outside with about 40-degree temperature variations next to a Svord high carbon Swedish steel knife, and I just wanted to see how much corrosion resistance the Ardent has, and compared to the Svord, I think it did pretty well. And it's about a 40-degree temperature variation from day to night, and it was left outside for 2 days. So yeah, it holds well for stainless steel.